How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good. Yeah, you got it. Big thing for us is obviously, I know this is the wrapping up of a 3-game road stretch. We've been kind of trying to really focus in on what our preparation looks like. I still believe challenged our team today. I still believe a total complete team performance is out there for us, and that's what we're trying to work towards as we get into the really important part of the season, late November into December. Chance to take all the things we've learned about our team, try to keep improving and put it all together. In the division, NFC North road game, they're always difficult. Chicago played really well last week, and I think they've got a very talented roster, a really good young quarterback who at any point in time continues to show all the things that we saw when we were going through the evaluation process of the entire rookie class. So we got to play really well defensively. Matt's always had a really good defense since he got there, and we're going to have to put it all together with the special teams phase as well. And they've got some really good special teams phase guys that can change the game. So I really see it being a really tough test for our team. But I want to see our team attack through a good week of preparation and go have a complete team performance and try to get a win on the road in the NFC North. Did want to let you guys know that Nick Muse, his 21-day window will open today, and we'll get him back on the field and see where he's at in regards to potential availability.
Kevin, when you were scouting Caleb Williams, how much of that was he could play here, or how much of it was knowing the Bears have the number 1 pick, we're going to have to face him twice a year?
Well, I think, anytime you go into what I hoped to be a very thorough and detailed process, you really can't look at it at the beginning of it if you're going to do it the right way as, start slotting where guys are going to go. You just have to have a complete evaluation of the whole class. So really over the last 2 years of kind of getting a jump on, his previous year and then on into his last year at USC. Studied him a lot. Big fan of Caleb. Gotten to know him over the years and through the process when he was coming out. Immensely talented, both as a thrower, a pure thrower of the football, but his athletic ability, his ability to play outside the structure of a play. He's got the chance to, move the chains on every down, which is what really good quarterbacks in this league consistently demonstrate, and he's, well on his way to doing that. I think he's, a really, really good young quarterback.
As hard as it is to win in the NFL and seeing where the Bears are coming and trying to get to, can you believe the 2 games that they have lost? I mean, on actually the last play of the game like that?
I think it just speaks to just how competitive these games are, and 60 minutes, and every single play matters. And whether it was the block field goal or the Hail Mary, they put themselves in position to win both those games. The difficulty in winning is on full display because they did everything that they needed to do as a team to win those games and lost it on the very last play. So I do believe it's it's something that they're probably reinforcing with their guys of how well we've actually played. Maybe the results have not come, and that's what everybody's going to talk about, but the foundation of playing good football is definitely within that team, and especially when you're talking about a divisional game at home for them, on the road for us. Whoever wins the game on Sunday is going to be the team that executes best in all 3 phases for 60 minutes. It sounds like a cliche, but I think not only our opponent, but we can clearly speak to that as well with going back to our 2 losses in the 5 days where you look back on 2 or 3 plays in those games and maybe those outcomes are different. So it's not always the last play. That's what I keep stressing to our team. It's the urgency of execution, play style, and strain and finish every single snap for 60 minutes to give yourself an opportunity to win in this league, which is hard to do.
Kevin, what did they do differently with Thomas Brown? Because Caleb did look like he was a little more in rhythm last week.
Yeah, I thought Thomas did a really nice job in regards to getting playmakers involved, whether it was an easy touch, on a jet sweep or a receiver screen to DJ Moore. Clearly you can see Caleb and Rome's kind of me to you factor that comes with all those extra reps that rookies get based upon, the veterans being so friendly with their schedule in the off season compared to the veteran schedule. They get a lot of extra time on task together, and it shows with the trust Caleb has in Rome, and then Keenan Allen. I've been a huge Keenan Allen fan going back years in this league. Separator, so savvy, understands how to work zone, beat man. And I think Caleb with Komet and now Swift in the backfield, I mean, it's a pretty dynamic group of skill players for Thomas to work with. And I thought he did a really good job for a young quarterback, getting him some easy throws, getting the ball out of his hand, but still, allowing some of that freedom that Caleb is so special at to make some plays. So you can see it, and I'm sure they're going to try to stack a good performance on what was a very good performance the other day against a good Green Bay defense. So we've got to show up and play well.
Yeah, when it comes to keeping Justin involved, even when the defenses pay so much attention, have you had to dig further into your vault, like over the last 3 years, than you maybe thought you might have, just to stay ahead of that?
I mean, honestly, we've had to, not only do that, but you've got to really implement some new things and some things that maybe you didn't, come across during your early coaching career, whether as a coordinator or position coach, or even when you're responsible for a small area of the game plan as a younger coach. You really have to kind of look outside the lens of, always what you see on tape. I think so much of this league is a copycat league, and it's, looking at the principles, or maybe in some cases the exact play, you'll see it repeated. I know our defense has seen quite a bit of that, where if a run hits on them, they're going to see the exact same run. Based upon, people searching for, positive plays against Flo and all of his scheme that he has. But with Justin, it's been a really unique thing, just because it allows not only myself and our coaches, but Justin plays a role in it as well. What did you feel at the top of that route versus this double team? Or maybe it was a zoning look with just high help and a couple extra underneath defenders underneath you. What do you feel like is possible from that same route stem? And then how do we complement that to make sure the other eligibles have a chance to have an impact on the play? And then you compound that. I think you saw it last week. That was one of the things Sam did really well, was getting back to Brandon Powell on the backside of a play, getting back to even Justin in the red zone, trying to maybe activate some things away from Justin purposely. Doesn't necessarily play out the way we intended, and he feet, eyes, rhythm right back to Justin, and Justin gets a first down, and we score on the next play. How many times can we stack that kind of execution with the protection, not only schematically and fundamentally to start the down, but can we get the strain and finish with Sam's athletic ability to allow him to extend some plays like he did, which were huge for us last week, to not only generate a couple explosives on some third downs, but sustain a new set of downs, which is so vital for us, because we feel like if we can do that, we can stack some plays together and hopefully finish in the red zone.
Did you see that in 21 with Cooper Kupp, the season that he had? I think it was 21, that he had Triple Crown and all that, and I know
Yeah.
you and Justin talked about him when you first got here. Was it not to that degree?
It was just a little different, because although Justin can morph into any position in our offense based upon how we like to move him around, Cooper did predominantly live inside, and there was a lot of easy touches to find even in some of those sequences, because Cooper was so heavily involved in the run game. Literally doing some things in the run game. You're like, there's no way the Triple Crown winner is also. I'll think back on a play against Tampa where he ended up somehow, with how the play ended up, he was blocking, I think, Levante David at the point of attack. It looked like we were running a 21 or 12 personnel play with just our receiver doing that. So off of that, a lot of times, the marriage of the run in the past, there were some easy touches for him. With Justin, we're pretty purposeful about, some of the things we ask him to do. He's very willing, but just knowing just how vital he is to our offense. So I think it's a little difficult sometimes to really kind of compare the two. But I will say, the last game I ever coached in LA, we really, they were playing basically a version of man coverage where there was two people on Cooper at the line of scrimmage in many cases. And we had to piece together through some injury. Tyler Higbee had gone down, Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham, some of these guys had gone down throughout that stretch, and we were having to find ways to win, especially on that last drive that maybe we didn't exist on the call sheet, and that kind of preemptively the next job I have a couple days later is here, and we've had to do that many times. So maybe that, that's a great question. Yeah, that last drive when we went down to score was essentially, I think, 16 out of 17 or so plays. We were just throwing the ball on early downs because third down meant, the double vice coverage was coming.
You guys have just 3 rushing touchdowns from backs this year. I think Aaron got stuffed on one last week. How small is the margin for error of having to get all those blocks right when you're down near the goal?
Yeah, it's sometimes there's, especially I think we've done a pretty admirable job against some pretty darn good fronts when you think back. Clearly the interior guys we played last week, you go back the week before that, and there was some real size in the Jacksonville front. You go back a week before that, you had the twins from the Colts. It just seems like that's how it's kind of been, and we're trying to get as good as we can. Really having those combinations when we can to help our guys inside, but sometimes we've got to do a better job with scheme. We've got to, try to still reinforce the play style, even when we might be, there might be a size advantage for the other side in there. There's really no excuse. We got to be able to run the football in, because as you guys have seen, so much of our offense comes off that in the field. It's just when the time and space of, field defense and those safeties are that much closer, those linebackers that are that much more fast to trigger downhill, it can be tough to get more than just single blocks. You can get a hat on a hat, but what are we doing with those, and can we find a crease? And I think we're all involved. It's the backs, landmarks, and vision to try to, get a messy, dirty run in sometimes down there. It's Sam being responsible for whether we're running a play versus this technique or this technique, and then sometimes when in our attempt to throw the ball in, we might get still shell coverage or a red zone version of that, and we've got to run the ball in versus those looks and haven't done a good enough job against that, and that's where we got to keep improving, and it's not going to get any easier any week you play in this league with the type of teams that people have built inside out defensively, for sure.
Kevin, is there a way that this team evolved this year that maybe you didn't expect or foresee? Something going on that coming out of training camp you didn't know that you'd count on happening?
To answer your question, there really hasn't been, because I tried to portray my expectations from the very first time I stood in front of this team, as a whole in training camp when we reported in late July. And I told the guys the other night at the hotel, if when I did that, and we've added some new players to the team, if there was anybody in this room that didn't believe what I said then, I hope you do now, and I hope you do based upon the work and the commitment that you guys as players have put into building something that we feel very special about. And being 8-2 after 10 games is great, but I've challenged our guys. All of that, all the times I've talked, which as you guys can imagine is plentiful, all of that means absolutely nothing if we don't continue to improve and get better and play our best football here towards the end of the season. And we're going to play some really good teams, offense, defense, special teams, where if you don't show up and play to the best version that you can of your own team, it really doesn't matter what the opponent does, because everybody's good. Everybody's got the ability to win a game on any given Sunday, and that's what this league's all about. So, there's really hasn't been a time, just because I've tried to push beyond maybe their own personal expectations early or anything that they might have been hearing from a narrative standpoint about our team. I've tried to kind of wade my way through that and eliminate all of that and just keep them focusing on what we're doing on a daily basis around here.
Kevin, Archuleta said, I know you know Tom Brady when it comes to being an analyst, but when it comes to quarterback, but he said that you can tell Darnold has been coached in a way that he's never been coached before. If so, if that's true, what's different? What would you be doing any different than someone else?
I can't really speak to, any other situations. I feel very strongly about the way we coach the position here, and it's definitely a we thing. It's not just me. It's Josh and Grant in the room. It's Wes. It's our whole staff, and then I think it's the Sam dynamic of hopefully feeling like it is a back and forth thing where we're always going to coach them hard. There's been some moments where we've come in on Mondays and maybe I coach some things up a little harder based upon, being the razor thin margin of error for the quarterback position. That's what it is. And it's when you go back and look at times that it doesn't work out, you better have been coaching principles to try to avoid some of those things ahead of time. So then you're just circling back to, hey, all this was, this was a feet and eyes thing, or you've taken this rep 15,000 times since you've been here, but why on this one was this footwork a little off, or why are your eyes in this place instead of right here? And normally when you peel all those layers apart and do it in an organic way that has a little bit of a positive reinforcement of belief of the player, you see a guy play at a good level and a high level. And what we're trying to get with Sam is just get him to play the best football of his career based upon the principles that we believe exist in this offense, and stay as consistent as possible regardless of the result, good or bad. We go back to work and we coach, and that's a back and forth thing that I think is important with NFL quarterbacks, that they feel that ownership of the position personally because they're given the opportunity to do so.
How common is the feet and eye thing? You've mentioned that up quite a bit. Is that a common coaching technique? It seems like it would be.
I'm sure. I hope it is. I hope it is for just the greater good of the health of the quarterback position. But it is. Maybe there's a belief in other things, and those may work too. I just know that coaching the position as authentically and consistent as you possibly can is something that I believe very, very much to my core in doing so. Because there's just so many variables in it that if you're, I just don't want to ever be literally the Monday morning quarterback where you're holding the clicker saying you should have done this, this, and this if the player's never heard that before. That's my fault. That's not any quarterback's fault. And it's just the way we try to do things around here, and we feel strongly about it. And hopefully that the guys that play the position feel that way too.
Kevin West talked yesterday about how you guys have used the GoPro and VR to help JJ along.
Did he?
On the field. Yeah. What is the benefits of that, and where have you seen that kind of show up in his?
I think we're trying to use any and all resources we can to maximize this year for JJ. And obviously with the first things first, I'm sure Dr. Phillips didn't share about the medical side of things, but he definitely, that has been the number one priority. But with that, a very, very strong thought process and detailed plan where we're using any and all resources. And luckily we've got, the greatest owners in the world that just let us always have the resources we need, especially for somebody as vital as JJ is to the future, not only his personal future, but just for our team. And so we've done a lot of different things than maybe you do with a 10-year veteran quarterback, just to make sure that we're farming just an ideal learning environment for him to hit the ground running when he's healthy. So, but I'll let Wes keep the details going on that.
Does he still work? Does he still work here?
Who's that, Dr. Phillips?
Or something we should be.
I just saw him a few minutes ago, so I think he's still here.
What have you thought of all the rules that Josh Metellus has
Yeah.
ascended into playing for this team?
Yeah, just look at, even the last week's game, third down, and it's him and Cash up there in the A-gaps, and they're running a pick stunt, sacking the quarterback, and then critical down later on in the game, they're right back up there, dropping out into coverage, playing a vital piece as P. Jones or Ginkel get one of those sacks in the 2-minute. He's so versatile. He's so smart. He still plays with great play style and physicality. He understands the importance of the player ownership of things as he works with Harry and Cash and the rest of the secondary to make sure we're locked and loaded. So there's so many times, Alec, where I just, I hear the call, I get to hear the dialogue, and then I get to, from my early in the week dialogue with Flo of kind of, hey, here's the plan of attack for this week. Here's how we're going to get it done. And then watch it come to life on Sunday. It's absolutely one of my favorite parts of this season is just watching that group, new guys that have been here, kind of take ownership of it and just have a phenomenal level of figured outness and ownership on Sundays that have been a driving force behind, all the turnovers we forced, but also there's been a ton of fourth down stops that don't really go in that turnover column that have been huge to give us a chance to win. And we've got to cut down on our turnovers offensively, and that's kind of that total, complete effort that I'm looking for.
Just in the same vein, from a quarterback's perspective, what does it look like when Andrew Van Ginkel is over there lining up left, right, sometimes in the slot? Just what types of problems does that cause a quarterback?
Yeah, you think about just some of the adjustments in game that you've seen out of our defense this year, where Gink 9 times out of 10 is going to end up in a weird spot, just causing a little bit of uncomfort. Maybe that's just targeting in the run game. Maybe that's targeting in protection, knowing that he's a known rusher, but where he's aligned, you really can't get him blocked as a known rusher unless you distort your kind of day one training camp rules. And that's what Flo's defense as a whole does a really good job of, is just creating pressure points both mentally and physically for the players on the field, just by the nuances of just the adjustments they can make, or maybe they go into a game with a different look. And I think it keeps people really honest from a standpoint of that play sheet, as large as they're getting around the league. From a size standpoint, you better not go in with too much, because if you overextend yourself and you're not ready for some of those adjustments, we've been able to capitalize on some of those things. So it's a great question, and I think it speaks to the value of what he's been, but then his value shoots up when you start thinking about Cash, Josh, Harry, those guys along the front, Grenard on the other side. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of, and just looking forward to them to continue to build and try to find their way towards playing their best here late as we get into late November, December. Thanks, guys.